know people are quiet this morning. Good morning. Yeah, it's excited to be here this morning. Permit me to do two things before I just give a summary of what happened yesterday. Again, I want to acknowledge the presence of our colleague Mbele. We know the journey was not easy, but it's been successful. So thanks having you around. We got the message yesterday. Collaboration, working together. Thank you very much. And also permit me to introduce the Chief Director of Chief Directors, even though he's retired, Engineer Brock. He's here with us today. He was the Chief Director of the Head of Civil Service. So all of us who were Chief Directors, we also had our Chief Director. So he was the senior of all seniors. Chief, you are most welcome. The lady has actually given a summary in some way about today. Yesterday was setting the stage, if I may put it in my own words. Ghana Evaluation Week. Today is the third leg of the tripod to ensure that there's an inclusive There were thought-provoking statements and comments that came up, which gives us a lot of hope to move forward that without evidence, you may be shooting in the dark. So we all need to work together. I see quite a number of us here, excluding some of us, are very young people. And the future depends on how we leverage the evidence to actually utilize the limited resources that we have. We can no longer just be planning and just not doing what we plan to do. So the first part, we had remarks from relevant partners giving their impression of the whole event and how they want to walk the journey with us. We came back to the round tables where we did an interrogation technically to the subject on the table. So we had one that focused very much on the MNE journey itself, and you have the other one that look at the media's role. Does the media have any role to play? How does evidence help the media to focus their discussion? Personally, I was very passionate about it because when we were doing the results fair, I had the opportunity to go on television. And before we start the program, I used to sit with those pressmen. And can you imagine they don't even get the nomenclature? So when they talk about impact, it's totally something different in their mind. So sometimes I have to spend about 15 minutes for us to agree on the language before we come on the set. So it's critically important to bring the media along. And the media showed a lot of commitment. And in fact, it was very exciting. The technical sophistication of the media was so excited. So we did that with the media. And actually, the rest was just to acknowledge our young evaluators who had gone through the 5 months of training. Like I said, it's a tailor-made targeted training, not just theoretical, because there's a huge difference between theory and practice. If you have been in the journey with me, this morning I was sharing with Dr. Hansen. I was in Botswana to do something. If I tell you that the theory didn't work, I needed to dig deep into my archives in order to survive. So that's basically what happened yesterday. And I believe that today is going to be exciting because yesterday has set the stage for today to leverage what we are going to do. So thank you all for coming. I don't want to take too much time. Thank you and enjoy the day. God bless you.
Yesterday has set a stage for today to leverage. Thank you very much, Kobneje. I didn't really introduce myself, haven't mentioned my name. So I am a member of the Ghana Monitoring and Evaluation Forum, actually a very proud member of the Ghana Monitoring and Evaluation Forum. And I would say that I've had the opportunity to be groomed by very seasoned people, very senior people, some of whom are already here. And it is really a privilege to be representing the Ghana Monitoring Evaluation Forum. I'm also a member of the Ghana Institute of Planning as well, so it's exciting that we are partnering with these like-minded institutions. Next on our program, we have a presentation from the INC projects, and to help us, we have two amazing people who have done a lot of work in this space, and trust me, you would just be nodding your head when you are listening to them. Let me introduce them before I call them upstage. We have Miss Patience Ampoma. Miss Patience Ampoma actually is a senior planning analyst at the National Development Planning Commission. She's also an M&E expert, and that's why we've invited her here. She doubles as a WASH focal person, water and sanitation focal person for the NDPC. And when it comes to the SDGs, she's done a lot of work supporting in the coordination of the SDGs for Ghana, as well as the Agenda 2063. Yesterday we heard a lot of talks about Africa Agenda 2063. And she actually is Ghana's focal person for Africa Agenda 2063. We also have Sarah Ajay, who also has over 15 years of experience in M&E and project management. She's also a voluntary professional evaluator and consultant on the INC project in Ghana, which they are going to present to us. I must admit that INC initiatives, together with GMF, Ghana Monitoring Evaluation Forum, as well as with the AFIA, African Evaluation Association. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome these amazing people, Sarah Ajay and Miss Patience Ampoma. Please, let's give them a round of applause. Come.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nana Kwabena. And we are happy, Patience and I, we are happy to be on this platform to engage you briefly on what we have been doing so far, or what we have done on the INSEP project in Ghana. As Nana Kwabena rightly introduced, my name is Sarah Ajay, and I am a very active member and volunteering a lot for GMF. Hello to Auntie Dede and your team. You've been so amazing with the opportunities from trainings with UNESA, which actually got us here. So we have a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll be glad to get it displayed for us so that we can start. Whilst we wait for the document to show, I would start talking. So the INSE, as we were tasked to work on, is a tool that has been implemented in over 20 countries in Latin America. And in Ghana, or in Africa, AFRIA, as we know, consulted or contacted DeVal, who are the main users or the deployers of this tool, to help us to institutionalize and strengthen our national evaluation system here in Ghana. So how is the evaluation system in Ghana like? How is it working? Do we even have one at all? So that we can actually assess the capacity of our national evaluation system that we use here in Ghana. Now, this particular tool was piloted with the help of AFRIA and with Mea Servope through GMF, was piloted in 6 countries, Ghana, Congo, Benin, we have Tanzania, South Africa, and Morocco. And the pilot was to see how this tool can actually help us assess our national evaluation system and measure it against other evaluation systems that we have, like the MESA and the other likes. So, I should have, can I take my laptop if it's not working? Just so that people carry me, run with me. I want to tell you a little bit about the INSE, and then after we would look at how it was deployed as a pilot tool in Ghana. Okay. So for the purpose of this gathering, we will be looking at how the INSE was run here in Ghana. We'll look at some insights from the process, the learnings that came up, and how we can move beyond pilot to seeing how we can replicate it in the work that we do as evaluators, as development practitioners in Ghana, and as public officials. So the INSE tool measures the national evaluation capacities and the practices that goes with it in the field of public policies, in the programs that we do in our individual work, in civil society, and then the services that we render as government and as evaluation professionals. The Sustainable Development Goals. Again, it's also to position and make visible the evaluation functions in the eyes of multiple stakeholders. How well do you know Ghana's evaluation system? And the INSE was one way of helping and know how, as a country, our evaluation system looks like. The tool is also supposed to promote, based on evidence, knowledge that exists among stakeholders as we are gathered here, within and between countries. So as I said, this particular pilot happened in Ghana, it happened in Benin, it happened in Congo, Morocco, Tanzania, South Africa. And so it provides the opportunity for us to learn within countries, pick up best practices, what has worked, what hasn't worked for the countries, and see how they can replicate the good learnings in their countries in the good deed of promoting monitoring and evaluation. Right. And then again, among regional and international actors. Please, are you following me, even though it's not showing? Am I communicating? Thank you. So the tool is represented in 5 dimensions. It's a whole questionnaire that focuses on 5 dimensions of our national evaluation systems. So it looks at measuring the institutional structure. It looks at the evaluation offers of every country. It looks at the multi-stakeholder space that exists within our countries, and then how we even use evaluation, as well as the quality of the evaluation system that we use as a nation. And in Ghana, for us, the host or the hub for this is the NDPC, and we worked well along with the NDPC. And I must say that for us in Ghana, the very first level of commitment to this is that government really supported this process with their resources, with their staff, and then they made sure that they rolled out the tool in the country through their system. And we really, really applaud them. Please clap for NDPC. They did very well. Yeah. In other countries, they had support from donors, but for Ghana, they really supported this process, and we are very proud of them. Now, some countries that this tool has been used in so far, as I mentioned, largely in the Latin America space, Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, just to mention a few. And then in Ghana, I have mentioned the Morocco, we've had Benin, the Republic of Congo, Tanzania, South Africa as the main countries where we piloted. And in recent time, AFRIA is engaging with DeVal to see how they extend the rollout of the tool into the other countries within the African space. So the tool has 5 dimensions and 74 indicators. And it's supposed to be a very participatory process. So you don't sit down and then circulate the tool and expect people to respond, because it's very engaging. And so for the process, it has to be participatory, and it has to be led by the country. for which NDPC led it in Ghana for us. And the main focus was on the networking and then the learning part of it. So when you look at INSEE as a tool, in terms of progress so far, we have reached 19 countries across Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And then the data that has come out so far from the INSEE has been largely used to prioritize some capacity development actions. It's been used to foster cross-country learnings and then strengthen how national evaluation policies are even done. In terms of prioritizing capacity development, it's very important that we actually assess the capacity. Helps us do the evaluation as a country and then beef up the capacities if they do not exist as a result or as a measure from the process. Please go back. I'm actually on the slide. Okay, right. So we can move to the next slide. So now we'll talk about how we did the process here in Ghana, and I'd like Patience to give us a summary background before I delve into the details.
All right, thank you very much. So when we embraced the opportunity to subject the country's M&E, monitoring evaluation system, under this assessment, just to check the pulse of the system, whether it's breathing or it's dead, we allowed DVAL and our collaborators to help us with this too, just as she's rightly mentioned. So what we did was to start off with an inception meeting. So we needed government's total support and ownership. So that was done on the 25th of April. And then the tool was launched in May, 28th May 2025. So we had all key stakeholders on board, as we've rightly mentioned, government and non-government. And then we did more of another level of consultation with the participants that we were targeting for them to complete the questionnaire. So we had 50 in all in person this day and age because of COVID. I think the other good thing that has come is a virtual meeting. And we just didn't want to give out the questionnaire to those of us in Ghana, but also extend it to the MMDAs, which is the Metropolitan Municipal District Assemblies. So we selected a handful of them, which is 100. You know, there are 261. We actually extended it to all of them, but we got 100 participating online. So just to enrich the whole process. And then we launched, the launch was led by NDPC with all this process. And as I've been mentioned, the whole aim was to help institutionalize this process and strengthen our evidence-based policy and planning. And from there, the questionnaires launched out, completed, and then we went through the process of just checking whether the information that were provided were accurate as much as possible, and it was fed into the INSEE processes. Analysis have been made, and I'm sure I will leave it here for my colleague to delve into the results.
Okay. Thank you, Patience. So we will talk about some preliminary results or feedback from applying the INSEE, the processes that we went through. Remember, I said there was a pilot, so we're documenting the process alongside the product so that we can learn from it all through. And that's a picture of the inception meeting that was had at the NDPC hall. So the first feedback or reflection from the process was the challenge with completing the tool in terms of the location and then institutional representation. And here, the tool could not really be changed. We couldn't do much about it. We wanted to contextualize it, like how, as we say, made in Africa. But the engineers of the tool had done some previous work on it, and we couldn't really do much about it. So there were some bits of challenges. But with the first launch that we had with the 50 in-person and then the 100 virtual, we were able to explain and clarify how the tool works. Again, when in applying this tool, 72 indicators is not easy, it's quite bulky. And so we had to do a lot of follow-up, continue to follow up with the respondents to be sure whether they are understanding the tool and then they are able to present it. This tool requires that you sit as an organization or a department to fill. An individual does not fill it. So it is not a representation of an individual view, but the institution or the department's view. Now, some respondents had challenges filling the tool online. It's a real-time tool, so you populate it, and then the result goes back into the system. And so we had to devise a way of getting an offline tool that people can initially engage around, make all their mistakes, and then when they are ready, they feed it into the online tool. One key feedback on the application is that this particular tool is run once every 2 years. And the feedback that kept on coming was 2 years is really too short to be able to do a measurement of a national evaluation system. So it should be actually random. Do we do a year or 6 monthly? That is something that had come up. Then support to government entities actually incentivize the country. As I mentioned, NDPC had to support this largely, and it didn't come easily. In some countries, they got a lot of support from donors, bringing, even incentivizing, responding to the proposal. I got personal calls. Madam, am I getting data to fill the questionnaire? Of course, 72 indicators is quite laborious, and sitting together as people, individual, to analyze and respond takes time. So one key feedback was, how do we incentivize people responding to tools like this? Some key insights from the application actually revealed that political will and leadership drive actually drives progress, but it must be institutionalized. And that is the whole idea of talking about a national evaluation system. How do we get this grounded? NDPC is doing quite a good job. And so that was why, one of the reasons why we could actually get this tool to run. In some of the countries, they didn't have any national evaluation system running, and so it was key learning that had been shared. It's also elevated the importance of national evaluation systems. In fact, having one and it's not being active is actually better than not having at all, because it gives you a good impression of where you are now, so that after the evaluation, you think about what you want to do about that evaluation system for it to be very active and be responsive in your country. Then subnational and non-state actors like civil society and INGOs who play a role in accountability requires continuous engagement and follow-up. We are talking about a national evaluation system. CSOs feel like they are not part of the ecosystem. INGOs feel like it's for the government. How do we relate? And so if you don't engage them to understand which part of the spectrum they fall, they actually don't feel like they are part of the ecosystem. And it's actually evident in the stakeholder respondents. We got very few from civil society. And even with the INGOs, I think we only had one respondent or two. And then, as Patience rightly said, at the local and sectorial levels, they have about 271, but we had less than 100 responding. And even their email addresses were not active for some. And it tells you that whoever will be engaging us on the digital processes and AIs and all that is actually going to be doing a worthy cause and should think about how we reach out to these people, because actually they are on the ground. But reaching them and getting them to do virtual responses to questionnaires is quite tough. And we are actually making progress in space. We can't do everything in person. So please, digital people, over to you. How do you connect with the dot? Now to Ghana and the results that came up of the INSEE. We had 24 entities reporting or responding to the questionnaire. When I say entities, I mean the institutions. So we had Ghana Police Service, we had Immigration, we had NDPC itself, we had education, we had health, statistics, Yes. In fact, we had quite a lot of them coming in. And the beauty about it is that we had them from various departments. We had some coming from their M&E office, that coming from either their capacity building offices, their planning offices. So there was a beautiful blend of people coming into and responding to the questionnaire. Now, when we say number of individual respondents, we had 143, and here individual means departments within institutions. So for instance, if you take NDPC, patients, you have various departments. So for instance, at the level of the district level planners, we categorize them as individuals. At the level of capacity might be different, the wash and all that. And we had 143. So this very first measurement was carried out this year. And per the INSEE plan, the next one should happen 2027. Then we can compare how far we have come and what we have done. Now, on the INSEE results, please, can you project the link I shared? Before I look at this, it's projected as a tree. And on the tree, you have all the 5 dimensions showing. Please come down. And this is a pictorial representation of the results from the process. So when you click on any of the, is it apples or pawpaw or melons there, it opens up details of, okay, so for instance, you talked about the multi-agent, you've clicked on this. So the multi-agent spaces from the responses we had is 6.8, and this is out of 10. So which means that in Ghana, we are not doing bad. At least we are above 5. It means that the system within which we do evaluation is multifaceted. There are lots of players within the system. We have CSOs, we have INGOs, we have government, we have private sector, and we have individual consultants and technocrats within the spaces. We have, out of the multi-agent spaces, we have coordination spaces, like we have AFRIA, we have GMF. There are other spaces that exist, and that give us a score of 7.4 out of 10. Then out of that, we have participation of relevant actors. That also gave us 6.2. So the results, as and when you click, if you click on the next fruit, it would further give us or elaborate on the aspects of it. Good. So let's go back to my presentation, and then I just wanted you to have a view of how the result is presented. So the 5 dimensions for us in Ghana are institutional structure, which looks at the National Evaluation System itself, that is NDPC here. And 5.93 is not too bad. I think they are falling on the average. So the relevance, do people know this structure? How is this structure being responsive in the ecosystem? What is happening? Are people aware? And they fall within the 5.9. Then D2, offer, evaluation offer, we got 6.30. When we say offer, we mean that evaluation offer. What are the institutions or the opportunities for evaluations to thrive within Ghana? The academic institutions that exist, the national bodies like GMF, like AFRIA, like the VOPAs, which I'm also one, that exists. And the results actually gave us a 6.3, which means that we are not doing bad as a country. In terms of quality, we had a 6.84 out of a 10, and that assesses how inclusive the evaluation system is. Beyond inclusivity, it looks at the capacity and then the scope of the evaluation system. In terms of that, as I mentioned, 6.84, not too bad. Then the multi-agent spaces, D4, we also did a 6.80. And as I explained on the live picture of the tree, talking about the various stakeholders, agencies, and then the faceted spaces that engage us on the evaluation system. In terms of its usage, 6.14. I think it's not bad, but we can do better. How well are we using the evaluation system that, or the NDPC as the body that does this? How are our policies being even evaluated in Ghana? Do we even know about it? Can anybody move or go into NDPC and ask for an evaluated policy or any evaluation that has been done, and how accessible can that be? So if you want to learn more about the INSEE, read more about it, I would employ you. You can visit www.inseval.org. You would see how it's running in the other countries, and you would actually see how Ghana has progressed on this. I would like to thank you. I hope I haven't gone overboard time. And then if there are one or two questions, we'll take it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Hello. Okay. Okay, that was an insightful presentation, and I think Ghana, we are a little above the average. We are scoring 6.8, 6.84, and all that. There's still room for improvement. So yes, we are taking questions. Okay. Can anyone help me with the microphone? I think there is a hand here.
Thank you, Patience and Eunice. I think that was insightful. Just a few questions, but I'll stick to two. What has been some of the key outcomes of the countries who have already piloted the tool? And then looking at 75 indicators, that's quite laborious applying. How verifiable are they? And in engaging with them, how were you able to address some of the challenges that obviously will come up due to the ability of the tool? And then contextualizing, that's the last one, two and a half. Since you were not able to contextualize the tool, how adaptable is it in future use? Because we need to see how, especially when you are rolling it down to the MMDAs, the district assemblies, they will be able to adapt it to their level and apply the indicators to exactly what they do. Thank you.
Okay, any more? So we take this, then you respond, because it's 2-in-1 question from Miss Patience. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Abdul Wahab. In the presentation, I saw something. She mentioned in the slide that the 2 years was too short. But and I also mentioned that they are thinking of either it should be routine, 6 months, or annually. So I didn't get it correct. If 2 years is too short, what about 6 months or annually?
Okay. So you respond, then we take next round of questions. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much for the questions. So I will start from the bottom. So the feedback we got was, I think, as a result of the 6 countries meeting to give feedback to the INSEE programmers on how we have fared when it comes to, the assessment. And they brought 2 years review. So it's actually subjecting our system to a 2-year review. So what we have done this year, the next 2 years, we should do the same. But we were actually of the view that it's too short. Normally, an assessment of this sort, we also need to give ourselves time to address the findings so that we can maybe start some form of implementation. We don't want the situation whereby, we are just on remote, we just remote controlling ourselves, subjecting ourselves to assessment without implementation. So we needed that breather So we are still in discussion with them so that at least 4 years or a little above the 2 years we will do. The other question that has to do with is it the comparability among the 6? So the 6 is just the pilot the countries in Africa. So what actually came out, what we can compare, or what we actually found has to do with the political will. So in as much as some have a very strong system, so a country like South Africa, they have a national evaluation system. They even have a level for control. They have a level within the system for checking, inaccuracies, and all that. The same way for Ghana, we have the system. We have a number of players, but I think when it comes to the strong coordination, that level of control is a bit out, because where do you actually send in the products, which is the evaluations that are conducted? Normally they are shelved. They don't even find themselves informing decision making and all that. So we learned about all those, some of the strength that the other countries have. But what actually unified us had to do with the political will. Some actually went to the extent of meeting their prime minister. It's the prime minister that gives approval until, the assessment and so on can be made. So that is, I think, the commonality.
Thank you for alerting me on that. I think I was actually, I had missed two sides of it. I meant the other one where Afri had mentioned that they want to extend the pilot to other countries. So thank you for alerting on that. Then on the key outcomes, I just want to say that one of the key insights I had shared was the political will. And for a country like Morocco, they are stuck. They've not been able to rule this intervention because of the political will. And then again, for a country like Benin as well. And then for Congo, they were the first to actually launch, but they had very few numbers. I think we have had the highest number of respondents so far. And so when you go online, the number of partners or African countries that have gone through this that we can actually compare with might be Congo. But then the contexts are quite different because they have a whole ministry in place, and then we have it sitting within a commission. And so that is, when it happens that way, you're unable to really compare. And then we haven't started applying or looking at the results, at the level of results, and how we can look at it, especially around quality. Yes, so that is actually one thing that NDPC needs to delve more into when it comes to the national evaluation system. And then you mentioned contextualization. Yeah, so I think I have answered the two questions in this response. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you for the responses. Any more questions? I think I saw a hand here. Oh, we are good. Okay.
Yeah, I just want some information. I know that Twendembele funded a study similar to this. Did you consult that study at all? Because NDPC was also involved. Did you consult that study? And what did the evidence show regarding your findings vis-a-vis what came out of the study they funded? Thank you.
Okay. Maybe you can go ahead. The response.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. So, Twendembele, yes, has been collaborating with NDPC heavily when it comes to M&E. So, I think with this particular assessment, what we did was still to open ourselves wide, in addition to other assessments that have been made. We at NDPC and even government, normally we don't go with a mindset of closing ourselves up, given the limitations, resource limitations, and all that. So in as much as that collaboration is ongoing and the product exists, the INSE, as we've already mentioned, well, we'll say it's already tailor-made based on the Latin America's experience. And they are just trying to test it with the African, subjecting it to the African context, or to know how it will work in Africa. We looked at the questions, contest issues. Yes, there are some areas that I'm sure going forward we'll want to address based on the already existing assessment, and then and see how we can improve going forward. So we just open ourselves for that opportunity, so that we can have that, opportunity to see the level of pulse when it comes to our M&E system in the country. So yes, Twende Mbele assessment is there. It will be considered in terms of implementation. So we'll weigh what the Twende Mbele assessment found, and then what's this one, what this one has also found. So with this one, as you can see, we are actually a little above average. Yeah, so the areas that we are not doing well when it comes to the disaggregated information, we will leverage on the other assessment to improve on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sure, go ahead.
So the benefit of going through varied measurements is that it gives you a plethora of options. One measurement can be assessing a particular aspect, and another measurement assessing a particular aspect. So you get a broad view, and I am sure NDPC would not limit itself to INSE or MESA or the Twende Mbele measurement, but any other measurement that might help it assess its capacity, its strength, and its quality. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to follow up on the question that Kwabna Boakye asked. Right. And, I think you've tried to respond as to why you went with this varied nature, not necessarily building on what Twende and others had done. But I think you will agree that for any solid study, actually leveraging on what others have done, right, makes it more meaningful, because then you don't get to duplicate efforts or reinvent the wheel. So I would like to get a sense why it was felt important that, despite the fact that these existing studies and findings were there, that you would put them to the side and then do yours, and like you're saying, only come and then revisit them after the fact. I find that a bit interesting. It's not something that normally is done, so I'd want to understand a bit what informed that decision-making process that you guys undertook. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. So that's a good assertion. I mean, in the interest of duplication and also not wasting resources, we agree with that. But as we are also trying to explain, we're just expanding the various experiences and also trying to understand how the system can be helped. So we acknowledge Twende's efforts, and but this particular work actually is anchored on AFRIA's strategic plan. AFRIA has a strategic plan, and in that plan is a component to strengthen M&E system in countries. Okay, so it's just a pilot that the INSE tool was extended to these 5 countries. Okay, but it's also interesting to note that as part of the collaborators for this work also has Twende Mbele. So there's from South Africa, the one who represented, she's actually part of the board and also in the national evaluation system. So that has already been looked. Maybe we may have to delve deep into these questions, but when we go into it, we will just see value addition. We will not throw what's the assessment that has already been done, but the value addition that this is also bringing, and also to support what AFRIA's work and extension of its support for these African countries. So once again, we just opened ourselves up to see, how we can be helped at another level. But we are not throwing away whatever important investments has been made. That assessment, when it comes to implementation, now we've seen these results on the average or a little above average. But here our concern is expanding the results as we click, at the various leaves or so. It gives you the expansion. The back end of the information is with NDPC. It's not open to all. For that one, we'll be able to tell where exactly the problem is, even with respect to location and so on and so forth. So these things will just help us, to augment the efforts that already exist. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more? Okay, so I think we can release you now. Please, let's give them a hand. All right, you're welcome. Okay, so we are delving into the capacity building sessions. I've seen some laptops, but I would like to know who brought their laptops. Those who have laptops, can I see your hand? Today is practical. Okay, so we have 2 sessions. For the second one, you need your laptop because it's about big data, it's about AI, it's about machine learning. So today we have a take-home when it comes to AI. But for the first capacity building session, it's about making evidence work for children. That's developing children-centric evaluation strategies. We've been talking about inclusive evaluation and all that. Today we are focusing on children. Focusing on them is also it also means being inclusive in your evaluation. So to do this, we have Mr. Samuel Deborah from UNICEF. So just to give you a brief intro about him, he's the monitoring officer for UNICEF and an M&E professional with 10 years working on database, GIS, and evaluations in Ghana. Mr. Samuel Deborah is passionate about learning new technologies that drive accountability, evidence-based decision-making, and sustainable development outcome. And he will not be doing this alone. He'll be doing it together with Sevara Hamziva. I hope I mentioned the name correct. Maybe when you take the microphone, you can give me the right pronunciation. Okay, so she is the multi-country evaluation specialist also with UNICEF in West and Central Africa. And since 2022, she has been overseeing the evaluation portfolios of Sierra Leone, the Gambia, and also Liberia. And prior to her current role as the multi-country evaluation specialist, she led the evaluation and evidence function of UNICEF in Nepal and Afghanistan. She also briefly managed evaluation portfolios across several UNICEF. And from this, we can also conclude that she also has experience in both fragile countries and also West African countries. So I herein call Mr. Samuel Deborah and Sevara Hamziva to give us the first presentation on child-centric evaluation strategies. Please, let's give it up for them.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to see you all. I don't know if you can hear me well. Samuel, I'll just give the floor to you.
Hello. So, good morning, colleagues. So, it's an opportunity for us to also share the work we've been doing when it comes to evaluations. For us, today's session will be focusing more on child-centric evaluations and then some strategies. And we hope to learn also from you. I'm sure we have a lot of experts here with experience when it comes to evaluations. But today's session, we are going to really drill down to how to engage children and how to also get their opinions, their feedback, and then also use that for decision making. So again, with UNICEF, we are here to protect and defend the rights of children. So pardon us if you find a lot of children. Today's session, within this 1 hour, we want you to be like a child, you to think and feel like a child during session. I hope that's fine with everyone here. Great. Okay, so Severa, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samuel. Once again, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. Can you confirm, Samuel?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks so much. Before we dive into more specific aspects of child-focused evaluations, we really wanted to give you a brief overview of what really makes an evaluation and why it really matters. And in simple UNICEF terms, we'll just give you just a few basics of how we see what an evaluation is. So as UNICEF, evaluation is an impartial and systematic process. And it really helps us honestly look at what's working in our work that we do for children, what's not working and why, so we can improve our capacity and adapt better to deliver better results for children. So in our world, every evaluation gives us credible evidence that feeds into three essential functions. Learning, it's to design better programs, accountability, to show we are using resources responsibly, and also decision support, so to guide us smarter, and more adaptive policies. In other words, evaluation is both our mirror and our compass. It reflects reality and it helps us find the best way forward for children. The next slide, please. So when it comes to the optics of evaluation, you all know obviously that criteria probably very well. We too at UNICEF apply these criteria, and we can think of them as our lenses for understanding what really worked and what didn't. We always look into these dimensions like relevance, coherence, whether or not our efforts are aligned with our the priorities of the countries where we serve, the priorities of children, and whether or not our interventions are effective and efficient. And impact, are we creating lasting positive change for children and their families? And of course, sustainability. And at the core of this criteria, we put a lot of emphasis on the equity, gender, and human rights dimensions, because we really want to understand how children are benefiting and who among them is benefiting, who might be left behind, and why. Because we want to make sure that every child in countries where we serve gets the services that we deliver, benefits, and have access to social services equally. So, can we move on to the next slide, please? So, just to give you a brief overview of types of evaluations that we usually implement to assess the performance of our programs. Most of our programs are quite long. They last for years. Some of them are short-term. So depending on their time frame, we use specific types of evaluations, like, for example, formative evaluations that we we apply when programs are still being designed or just been, rolled out. So we think of them as our testing phase. So they help us refine strategies, spot risks, and make sure we are on the right path before the halfway check-ins, as we call them. So these help us see what's working, what's stuck, and where to adjust course to get better results. And very often when we complete our programs, we, even before a good amount of time passes, we do summative evaluations because we really want to quickly assess how we've done, and especially when our program's meant to continue at some point, we evaluate, the results, so we can see how we did overall, and then where we can adjust, and scale up. And then we also have ex post evaluations that come after some time our programs were closed, and then they do ask the questions like, did the change last, right? And so these ex post evaluations also look into impacts, for example, and the extent to which we made a positive difference in children's lives. So across the life cycles, evaluations act like a continuous feedback loop from design to closure, ensuring that what we do for children keeps getting stronger over time. The next slide, please. We also wanted to give an overview of different contexts where we operate and where we do evaluations. We often operate in humanitarian contexts, and even though it's very difficult to deliver programs and services in crises and conflict situations, we don't stop. We still go out there and evaluate our programs. And, so we divide our evaluation context into two types, development and humanitarian context as presented on the slide. Just to give you the difference, because also the types of methods that we use and questions that we ask also differ. For example, in the humanitarian context, from the programs that we implement in development contexts, in other words, non-conflict, maybe easier places. So, for example, in development contexts, we focus mostly on learning for long-term impact, and these are usually done in more stable or post-recovery environments. And they look at how well systems and services for children are performing, asking questions: are we building stronger, more resilient that will last? Our evaluations are more about like real-time nature, like real-time learning in crisis. So these take place during or soon after emergencies, like conflicts, epidemics, or natural disasters happen. And here, the priority for us is speed, understanding what's working, fixing what's not, and improving coordination and accountability among all stakeholders on the ground. So while development evaluations help us look to the future, humanitarian evaluations help us act now, also look to the future as well, but ultimately ensuring that even in the toughest contexts, children needs remain at the center of everything that we do. The next slide, please. And we also wanted to briefly pause on impact evaluations that we often carry out on our programs at UNICEF. And these are our deep dives in long-term change, but also, increasing the ability to make an impact, a long-lasting impact, shaping national policies, or deciding where to invest next. So the idea is simple. We compare what happened with an intervention to what would have happened without it. That's how we measure the true difference a program made in people's lives. I think it's important to emphasize this because the impact evaluations compared with, for example, summative or formative evaluations, they're much more robust, right? And I would like to use some terms when children are involved in such evaluations. It's just so crucial for us to ensure that their needs are properly reflected, but at the same time, their participation is, done per ethics standards, norms, and quality assurance procedures that we will talk more as we proceed, in this evaluation. The next slide, please. Now I'll give the floor to Samuel to go through the quality assurance procedures. Samuel, over to you, please.
Okay, so thank you, Severa. So just to also highlight the points about quality checks. So as we develop our evaluation, it's important that as an organization, we put in some accountability measures to ensure that the evaluation reports that we share with the public, the evaluation reports that is usually consumed, goes through a rigorous process. So internally at UNICEF, we have a quality check called the GEROS. And with the GEROS, it provides that framework. It has 22 indicators that we need to ensure that we've met. One key point I want us to also take home is that this quality check ensures that we factor in the gender equality. It also factors in the commitments of UNICEF, and then includes equity, human rights, and disability-inclusive approaches. So we have all these 22 key indicators. So when an evaluation report is produced, these quality checks, the report will go through these quality checks to ensure that it meets that standard. And then one key objective of this particular quality assessment is to ensure that we are accountable to the people, we have a robust evaluation evidence, and also it helps us. This is done by an independent body within UNICEF. They give us that constructive feedback on a particular evaluation report that has been produced. So again, at the end of the day, when an evaluation report is produced or published online, there is this GEROS that will come back and give us a rating. So evaluations can be described as exceptional, it can be described highly satisfactory, fair, unsatisfactory, and not rated at all. And again, we are trying to meet the standards of the UNEC. That's the United Nations Evaluation Group norms and then the standards. So these are some checks that we put in place to ensure that our evaluation reports that are produced meet the standards. Okay, so the next slide, with the kind permission of Severa, is for us as a team to reflect. We are not going to draw like a child, but at this moment, within 1 or 2 minutes, I want us to reflect. And in this moment of reflection, just ask yourself, or I'm asking you this question. If you were 7 years old and someone asks you how you feel about your school, how would you draw your answer? So at this moment, I want us to feel and act. Let's do a throwback. Let's go all the way back when we were 7 years. And let's see, how do we feel about our schools? So we'll move on. Just 1 minute, please reflect on it. How do you feel about your school? And how would you draw your answer as a 7-year-old? Please, are we okay with the question? We are okay. So how would you feel? I wish we had our pencils and our sheets to draw, but because of time. But how would you feel? So I'll need two people just to tell me something, and then that will introduce the next slides. How would you feel? If you had to draw your school, how you feel about your school? How would you draw your answer? In this instance, how would you feel by expressing it? Yes, sir.
I'll feel happy because even if I'm given the opportunity to go back 7 years, I'll still go back to the same school.
The same school. Okay, great. Gender equality here. I'll need a female to help us. Yes, Madam Dede.
Okay, I was going to say that I'd be excited. I mean, for me, primary school was a lot of playing and a lot of fun. So I probably would draw a playground with a lot of us jumping around and having fun.
Great, great, great. So I think we're having a positive feedback of our experience in primary school and as a 7-year-old. That is great. So these are some comments, these are feedback. When we engage young people, when we engage children, these are some of the things we usually capture, and that helps us develop our reports. So I'm going to hand over back to Severa. Severa, I need you to help us describe the processes that we go through when we are doing the evaluations. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Samuel, and everybody who have contributed. I think, if we pause on that question, draw like a child. If you are asked to draw your school, as if you were 7 years old, how would we really imagine our world? I think that simple question reminds us that children experience the world differently from adults. They express emotions, hopes, and frustrations in their own unique ways. Sometimes through drawings, stories, or play. And as evaluators and development professionals, our job is to see through those eyes, to make sure that when we assess programs, we also capture children's voices, their perspectives, and lived realities. Because ultimately, every evaluation that involves children should reflect not just numbers and outcomes, but the way those changes feel to them. And when we talk about child-sensitive evaluations, we are not just talking about methodology, we're talking about a mindset rooted in rights and child development. So just if we look at the slide, the question, who is a child? It's a powerful question. And then we do have legal frameworks that define who a child is, right? So we have conventions on the rights of the child. It's anyone under 18. And within that, we recognize adolescents and youth as well, whose voices and experiences are equally vital as they move through different stages of growth. So childhood isn't just it's the foundation, physical, cognitive, emotional, and social. That's why the Convention on Rights of the Child and the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child give us a clear legal and moral framework for how children should be seen, heard, and supported. So at the heart of these frameworks are 4 core principles: the best interest of the child, non-discrimination, the right to survival and development, and the right to participation, and many, many more. And these principles are exactly what guide us when we design and conduct our evaluations, ensuring that every finding, every recommendation, and every lesson learned ultimately protects and empowers children. So if we move to the next slide, please. So why does child-sensitive evaluation really matter? Because children are not just beneficiaries, they're rights holders and active agents in their own lives. Evaluations that are truly child-sensitive, we make space for children's voices and perspectives in ways that are safe, meaningful, and appropriate to their age, gender, and context. It also means we look deeper beyond average reach and who is still being left behind and why. And by doing this, equity that I mentioned, but we also reinforce accountability. Because when children's voices shape how we measure success, we are reminded of who our work is really for. So in short, child-sensitive evaluations make evidence more child-focused, human, but ultimately more powerful. The next slide, please. So for this one, I'll give the floor back to Samuel to elaborate more on types of data collection methods used in our evaluations.
Okay, so thank you. So at this point, I also want us to look at the evaluation methods. How do we even collect information from the communities, from the districts, at the region, and then also at the national level? How do we collect information for evaluations? So there are three forms: the numbers that will tell the story. We are also looking at the voices that will bring depth and meaning. And we are looking at combining those two elements together to really make meaning out of that particular situation. So I'm sure we all know, I'm sure our stats lecturers taught us about quantitative methods. I know those who, yesterday during the media engagement, one person made the point that he's scared of maths, so went to the media space. So quantitative will deal with the numbers, right? It will deal with the surveys, where now we have our Kobo Collect, we have our ODKs, we deploy it to get our information. So we have our questionnaires or our surveys, which are structured, and then we collect the data. Again, we also have the admin systems, like the DIMS, like the MS, where we get our information also. And then there's one key word that usually we ask when it comes to quantitative methods: how much? How much the change occur? And then afterwards, we'll run it through our systems, and then we'll run the analysis, we'll produce the graphs and then the charts, and then we say that, okay, 4 out of maybe 10, or 1 in 10, or we then use our percentages to really describe the situation. Then we have the qualitative method, where we'll have our focus group discussions, where we will observe, where we invite these children to even draw. We'll be touching on some of the techniques on how to get information from these children. Again, the qualitative methods will ask the question, why and how? And how did this change happen? Then it will also capture the experiences and content. And it's really powerful because some of the words from the children, some of the words from the beneficiaries help build the story. Then we have the mixed methods, where we will try and combine everything together, where we will have our quantitative and we have our qualitative evidence together. And it helps tell the story because it's credible. You have the voices of people, you have the voices of community members, and you also have the numbers to do what? To back it up. So that leads me to one of the, yesterday again, in reference to the media engagement, I enjoyed it so much, was the products that come out of our evaluation reports. Usually, I think there was one comment from the panelists that it sits down in our shelves it's very difficult to do what? To consume or even engage people on it. So I'd like to share with you one of our strategic plans that was developed. And as UNICEF, we wanted to assess the progress of our strategic plan, like our country program or our global program. So there was an evaluation conducted for our global program to assess its relevance, again, to assess if it's efficient, and I'd like to share that video with you. And afterwards, I'll get your impression or your feedback on this particular video. I hope the internet works well.
Every organization needs a compass to guide its work. For UNICEF, that compass is the strategic plan. It outlines what the organization aims to achieve, how, where, and with whom, so that children everywhere can grow up healthy, educated, protected, and empowered. The current strategic plan runs from 2022 to 2025. It guides all of UNICEF's work, from local programs to global partnerships. As the end of this cycle approaches, UNICEF asked a critical question: how well is the strategic plan working? To find out, UNICEF's Evaluation Office conducted a global independent evaluation. It examined over 200 reports and data sources, about 150 interviews with staff and partners, surveys of UNICEF country offices and national committees, and monitoring data along with forecast modeling to estimate how likely UNICEF is to reach its goals by 2025. The evaluation focused on 3 core questions. To what extent is the plan relevant and effective? What results has UNICEF achieved so far? And what factors are helping or holding back progress? The evaluation found that the strategic plan has provided a strong and relevant roadmap to uphold and safeguard the rights of all children. It has helped UNICEF stay aligned across global, regional, and country levels, even in a fast-changing world. Strengthen systems that support health, education, child protection, and social protection. Advance cross-cutting priorities like gender equality, disability inclusion, and mental health. Expand its work on climate action, youth engagement, and public financing for children. And adapt and respond to emergencies while continuing development work. But challenges remain. The evaluation found that the plan structure can be hard to adapt, particularly when resources are limited. Tracking long-term results is difficult due to limited data and overly complex indicators. There is often a gap between ambitious goals and available funding, with many resources tied to short-term or emergency needs. Climate and child rights need to be more fully integrated into all areas of programming, and internal decision-making processes and a tendency to avoid setting clear priorities can slow down action. These issues do not mean that the plan did not work. On the contrary, it provided critical direction and helped UNICEF deliver many immediate results for children. But to achieve lasting, systemic impact, the organization needs to sharpen the priorities of its work, improve how it measures long-term progress, and give more tailored support to staff operating in diverse and often complex settings. Building on these insights, the evaluation made 7 recommendations to strengthen UNICEF's next strategic plan. 1. Put child rights at the core, making them the guiding principle for decisions and action. 2. Strengthen stakeholder engagement and scale up integrated cross-sectoral approaches. 3. Focus the plan with clearer priorities and funding that matches ambition. 4. Advocate for longer planning cycles and use adaptive strategies that fit different contexts. 5. Embed the humanitarian development peace nexus in all aspects of the organization's work. 6. Make climate risks a core priority, supported by partnerships and dedicated capacity. And 7. Use and coordinate data, research, and evaluation to drive learning, influence, and accountability. These recommendations build on the progress UNICEF has already made, and they aim to help the organization deliver even greater results in even more challenging times. As UNICEF's next strategic plan is being developed, the evaluation will help the organization and all its partners build a better future for every child, everywhere.
Okay, so I think from this video, I have one question. Based on this particular evaluation that was conducted, I wanted to find out which type of evaluation was conducted. Can someone tell me? Because I remember Severa touched on the types of evaluations that we have. So from this one, from this strategic plan, the review of it, someone please help me with this, the evaluation. Summative, okay. Any other opinion or view on this? Is it a summative evaluation? We all agree it's a summative. Oh, hello. Hello. So it's a summative, right? I still don't get the feedback. Okay, so I agree with you, it's a summative, and it helps us assess our progress as we get towards the end of that particular strategic program, and it informs the next program. Okay, great. Next time I'll bring a special chocolate for you. Thank you. Let's clap for him. Let's clap for him. Great. So Severa, over to you on the child-friendly data collection methods.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Samuel. Now, we saw the example from UNICEF, but now let's look at what this means in practice. How we actually gather children's voices in evaluations. So what we try to do here, just to give you a brief list of different types of child-friendly data collection tools and methods. And this is not it. There's much more new and more innovative and creative ways are emerging. And we really wanted to share the list of these examples as tested tools that worked really well in our practice. And these are participatory tools that help children express themselves in ways that feel natural, safe, and fun, rather than formal interviews or long surveys. For example, younger children might use the method called draw and tell. So where they draw something about school or family and then explain it in their own words, as we just recently shared with you, right? Draw like a child. So it is one of those methods that really kind of help kids visualize their experiences and communicate through drawing, but also verbally expressing their experiences. And on the other hand, adolescents, for example, might prefer a method called photo voice. For example, taking pictures of their daily lives and using those images to share their experiences and challenges with their peers. And we can also use storytelling, emoji skills, or even games like ranking and sorting to explore priorities and perceptions with children. For older children, for example, tools like the age framework or ladder of life can help analyze what's working, what's not, and what can be improved. So what's really powerful about these methods is that they adapt to each child's age, literacy level, and context, allowing us to hear what children think in their own language, whether that's through drawings, photos, stories, or simple symbols. Now, if we move to the next slide, I really wanted to share one of my favorite participatory tools that we call timeline or journey mapping, or sometimes we call it a river of life. And before I go into the details, I really wanted to show this a brief video that we've prepared using AI. And it gives you an audio. Samuel, if you can click on this video, and I hope it works. Over to you.
Okay.
I've always been fascinated by how we can understand children's experiences better. Today, we're exploring a powerful tool that helps us see the world through a child's eyes: timeline mapping. It's like creating a visual story of a child's life journey, and it's incredibly insightful. They draw their life journeys on paper, adding 3D symbols: a graduation cap, a moving house, a heart for happy times, and a cloud for sad ones.
This is when we moved. Scary, but exciting.
You don't have to share anything you're not ready to. This method reveals emotional changes, turning points, and support needs over time.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel. So as you can see here, children literally draw their life journey, a line or a river that flows through important moments, both positive and difficult, but communicated in their own way, through their own imagination, and their experiences of lived realities. So they can use symbols, drawings, or even photos to make events like, like starting school, for example, or losing a friend, or moving to a new place. Next slide, please. And so here we have a bit more detailed picture of how this method really works. But as you can see also, as children walk us through their timeline, we also learn not just what happened, but how they felt their experiences. So this method helps us review shifts in their well-being, their coping strategies, and the impact of services that we deliver, or different experiences that we live, including disruptions over time. So what's most important, though, is to handle it with care. So these conversations can bring up emotional memories, and we always remind children that they can skip or change topics at any time. And so it's important to ensure that when we interact with them, we provide a safe environment for them to feel and communicate with us. So this method, journey mapping, for example, just like many other child-focused data collection methods, they can turn evaluations into storytelling through children's voices, and they help us see change as children experience it, not just as adults measure it. Next slide, please. So when we talk about child-sensitive evaluations, we always must talk about inclusive evaluations. So some of the children whose voices most need to be heard are also the hardest to reach. Those children, for example, living with disabilities, in very remote areas, children connected to the streets, and those affected by conflict, poverty, or discrimination. So inclusion doesn't just mean inviting them to participate. It means designing the process around their realities. So that could mean for children with low literacy or disabilities, working through trusted adults like teachers or social workers, or ensuring that spaces are physically and emotionally safe for them. It also means being flexible, take breaks, or communicate in their own way. Because when evaluations make space for the most vulnerable, and marginalized voices, the evidence we generate becomes more complete, more just, and ultimately more transformative. The next slide, please. And at the heart of every child-focused evaluation is one simple principle: do no harm. Next slide, please. So ethics are not just about procedures or consent forms. They're about trust. So they remind us that every data point represents a real person, often a child sharing something deeply personal. So when we act ethically, we build a trust with children, ensuring participants feel safe and respected. We also ensure accuracy and non-exploitative practices, because children are more likely to tell us the truth when they feel protected and valued. So strong ethics also protect our credibility as evaluators, and for us as UNICEF. They show that we value people over products, processes, over pressure, and integrity over convenience. So in short, ethics are what make our evidence meaningful, because data gathered without dignity is data we cannot trust. The next slide, please. So when we talk about ethics in evaluation, we also wanted to show these key principles, and we have more key principles that are really what hold everything together. So they remind us that participation must always be voluntary and informed, that we do no harm, and that we protect confidentiality and dignity at all times. They also mean their right to be heard, but also their right to stop or step back if they wish. And ethics remind us that evidence must serve a purpose. It should ultimately benefit children and communities, not just feed into reports or statistics. So these principles embody our data collection tools and inform consent. So when we interact with children, we always ensure that we get approval of their caregivers and their parents through parental consent. But also when kids are involved, we also get their consent to participate, what we call child assent forms. Because we have such a limited time, we didn't want to go into the details, but once once you start working on data collection tools for evaluations, you always have your informed consent. And every evaluation in our practice, especially at UNICEF, goes through a formal ethical review process through either national IRBs, or we also have an agreement with external IRBs that provide review and approvals for our evaluations before we proceed data collection activities. So this is all we wanted to share on this, and we wish we had more time to give you the full details of different ethical procedures that we do. As we move, children require special concentration in evaluations, not because they're less capable, but because they're more vulnerable to power dynamics and misunderstanding. And we really felt that it would be important just to put really emphasis on why children need specialists in any evidence generation activity, because they may not fully understand what we're asking, why we're asking questions, and how the information will be used. So also, it's important to always remember that the ability to give or withhold consent is limited, and sometimes they may say what they think adults want to hear rather than what they truly feel. So that's why it is our responsibility to ensure that their participation is always safe, respectful, and empowering. And protection goes beyond physical and psychological well-being. So we must create environments where children feel comfortable, valued, and free to express themselves honestly. So if we move to the next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the child-specific procedures, child assent forms earlier, and of course we can't go through each detail, but we really wanted to give you this brief overview. When we involve children directly, the types of procedural elements that we follow. So, as I mentioned, we have informed consent for caregivers and assent for children. And then in these forms, especially when we interact with children, we use clear child-friendly language so they understand what participation means. And we always apply the principle of do no harm. It's very important for us to ensure that we have all the mechanisms in place when we gather data from the population, especially in our engagement with children. That we ensure that especially children, they feel comfortable. So let's say if they look uneasy or distressed, we always need to make sure that we pause or stop the data collection process immediately. And when we talk about environments, it's not just also kind of putting them in an environment where we think is safe, but ensuring that data collection activities take place in familiar environments to them, in settings where they feel comfortable and are at ease. And we always must ensure privacy and confidentiality as children might fear consequences for speaking honestly. And always, as I briefly just mentioned, referral and response duty mechanisms should be in place. If a child discloses abuse or serious risk, we must know how to respond safely and responsibly in alignment with our organization's procedures and the national policies. So, and just to highlight that these are not just procedural steps, they're about protecting dignity, trust, and the very heart of what ethical child-centered evaluation stands for. The next. So now that we've covered the key principles of child-sensitive and ethical evaluations, we also wanted to share one example just to show how these ideas come to life in practice. So what you see right now on the slide is the example that comes from Sierra Leone. The evaluation of the improving access to wash in rural fishing communities, which we jointly implemented with the governments of Sierra Leone and Iceland. So this evaluation was a mixed method based evaluation. We combined quantitative and qualitative data collection methods to make sure we captured not only numbers, but also voices and lived experiences. And this evaluation included 800 students, half of them girls, and key informant interviews, focus groups, and including facility audits of wash sites. So this is the logical design paired with inclusion, like engaging persons with disabilities, helps generate credible, rights-based evidence that truly reflects community realities. For example, in the household surveys, we ensured that we had questions on the demographic profile. We ensured that our rights holders' demographic profiles were also properly captured, for example, including wealth quantiles, their locations, in addition to using a module like Washington Group UNICEF module on functional limitations of respondents. So we ensure that our evaluation matrix covered all the essential questions that focused on the needs and priorities of the rights holders, but primarily children, adolescents, and youth. So we made sure that children and adolescents weren't just sources of data, they were recognized as participants with a voice. So for example, the question, to what extent has the program empowered children, adolescents, and youth? This ensured that empowerment and participation were not accidental findings, but deliberate areas of inquiry. And for the data collection, we used focus group discussions with school-going children and adolescents, and always ensured that we had our informed consents, child assent forms, from completely done in engagements with children and their parents. And we also had separate focus discussions, waste recycling and environmental sanitation activities of the project. So we gave them a chance to share how the program affected their lives and aspirations. So throughout the evaluation process, strict ethical safeguards were applied, including child-sensitive facilitation and inclusion of children with disabilities. So this design shows that when participation, children's voices become part of the evidence, not an afterthought. The next slide, please. And just to give you a brief overview of what we found and youth to be involved. So you can clearly see that adolescents and young people were not just passive beneficiaries. They were actively engaged in the implementation phase through school health clubs, peer-to-peer hygiene education, and community wash committees. And many received training in different areas of the project, including hygiene promotion, for example, and some even became community water technicians and recycling operators. And this evaluation for us showed that this kind of engagement truly empowered children and young people and helped them build their leadership skills to some extent, but also confidence and public speaking skills. So, and the most powerful insights really came directly from children and youth who, who clearly expressed how they, began feeling more empowered and confident as a result of their participation in this project. And I mean, we're displaying some of their quotes on the slide. And again, these are not just quotes, but they're evidence of transformation. So they show how participation turns evaluation findings into stories of dignity, agency, and hope. So with the slide, now I will give the floor back to my colleague Samuel to share this amazing example from Ghana. Over to you, Samuel. Thank you.
Thank you, Zara. So just to conclude, for the Ghana Country Office also, we've conducted, or we are in the process of finalizing a baseline for an impact evaluation. And this impact evaluation focused on promoting, it was evaluating our program. And the program was promoting adolescent safe spaces. They call it the PASS program. And again, the PASS program is being implemented in the northern regions. There are some districts in the northern region and then the central region. And we are working closely with UNFPA on this particular intervention. So the PASS program, the idea was to assess the progress, identify some of the issues, and then identify some of the mechanisms that we can put in place to ensure that this program can then be scaled up. So there was a need for us to then have an impact evaluation of it. There's a video I want us to all watch, and then we will wrap up for today.
I'm here in Gurumanchagili, a community in the district of Tolong, where we're here to monitor data collection efforts for the impact evaluation of the PASS program, promoting adolescent safe spaces. Come with me.
My name is Dominic, and we are currently at Gurumanchagili. And we currently speak with adolescent boys and then their caregivers, while my team, the females, speaks to the adolescent girls. So one of the major challenges that I think we are facing has to do with the weather. As you can see around me, we have water running everywhere. When the rains come in, it makes it difficult for us to get to them, because after the rains, they quickly move to their farms to check on their farm produce and all that. Access to some of the communities aren't that good. The roads are not good at all. So it's quite difficult getting access to the communities. I love kids a lot. So this is one way I think I can help out children in the society, and can also see to their welfare as my way of contributing to their better future.
So why do we collect data as part of an evaluation? Collecting data is important as a first step in understanding how we engage with communities and how the program's really doing. It requires identifying who we want to interview, how we interview them in a safe and respectful manner, especially when it's adolescents and children under the age of 18. The end goal of this analysis is for us to truly reflect how the program is doing, how we can course correct, and how do we work with other stakeholders, be it university and professors, be it the government of Ghana, and be it communities, to identify what can be done to improve the lives of adolescent girls in the context of ending child marriage.
The impact evaluation analysis is important to influence policies to be able to increase interventions. It will also inform government programming on the interventions that are geared towards adolescents in Ghana.
I think a larger reflection, more personally, beyond just the data collection, is being in the community truly makes you understand how there are so many deprivations, challenges that still exist, and the need for intersectoral programming, and seeing how our programming around sanitation, hygiene, protection, education can all link up at a community level. To truly drive change and to ensure that every child has a bright future here in the community.
So that's the impact evaluation. Currently, we've completed the baseline phase. So they will be going into the communities. We have the control group, and we have the communities that we are implementing this particular intervention. And then afterwards, they will go back and collect the information, the data again from those communities. But we are hoping, we are working with the University of Ghana to, that's the School of Public Health, to collect this information. So we are hoping that we can share these results with you next year when we meet up for the evaluation week. So stay tuned for the results of this particular impact evaluation. Over to you, Severa, for your final comments.
No, thank you, Samuel. No, this is it from our end. Of course, we wish we could share more, and of course, with our partners. Yes. So the to them better, especially in the context of Ghana.
Severa, can you hear us?
Over to you, please.
Okay,
thank you.
So, colleagues, we know time is fast spent, but we also have the data collection handouts. So we'll be sharing a QR code. We want you to scan. These are handouts that you can, in your spare time, read and reflect on. So you can scan, and then you have the handouts for the data collection tools, child-friendly data collection tools. So you can scan and then download this particular handouts. And then I think we have another handout which talks about ethics. So please let me know if you're able to have access to the document, then you download it, and then you can have access to it. We didn't want to print a lot of papers here. We are trying to save the environment. So please kindly open your camera on your phone, you scan, and then you have access to it. I hope we all have access to the file. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll move on to the next handout, which is ethical procedures in data collection. You can also scan that and have access to it. We'll also share with BIH and the team slides, so I'm sure they will share with all participants for today's event. So you can scan the QR code and have access to the ethical procedures in data collection and evaluation. That will guide you as you engage children in your data collection process. I think we are okay, we are good to go. So I'd like to say a big thank you. Apologies for the long delay, but we are hoping that as we leave this room, we'll have that child-centered mindset to conduct our evaluations. Thank you.
Let's show some love. We can do better. We can do better. Let's show some love. Thank you very much, Samuel and Severa, for helping us with this insightful presentation. It's interesting. UNICEF is not just funding us and supporting us with some of the financial resources with this journey. They are not just talking. we've seen from the presentation, it seems and it's clear that they are rather walking the talk. And I think we really need to show appreciation for that. So please, can I invite you that we give them another round of applause? We will take a few questions, even though we are a bit behind time. But today's session, as we said, so it will be a missed opportunity not to get some reflections from the room. So, show by hand if there's any quick reflection. It shouldn't necessarily be a question. If there's anything that really stands out or stood out to you that you would like to highlight, but please, we want to be very brief in less than 30 seconds. Permit me to abuse my role as the chair in less than 30 seconds. Who would like to start? Any reflections? Or if it is a burning question, then that's fine.
Thank you very much. Again, clarity on some of the issues that were raised. Generally, you spoke about disability, but I was also I was thinking probably what could have been projected more for me was particularly those with visually impaired or speech impaired, how you can actually collect data from children with this kind of disabilities. Probably if you have any information you can throw for, and otherwise you can probably give us your view on this. Thank you very much.
One more question and then the team can react. Any more questions in the room? All right, then yeah, I think you can take that.
Sure. Okay, so maybe I'll attempt, and then Silvera, I'm sure online she can also add on. I agree with you on those points. I think there are other methods also to engage people living with disabilities and then also visually impaired. We have other methods, but I think in our slides we highlighted just a few. So it's well noted. Next time we will try and add all these components also to it. But we have ways in engaging these individuals when it comes to evaluations and also get their feedback always. Yes. But Silvera, online, if you can also add on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a very important question. In general, integrating the disability dimensions into data collection tools is not always easy and straightforward because it also depends on national definitions of what disability is. But I could give you a very good example that we usually use, and that would be the Washington Group module and UNICEF, like Washington Group UNICEF module on adult and child functioning. We don't call it a disability module, but it is about measuring the child functioning or adult functioning limitations that we integrate into our big data surveys like MIX, for example, multiple indicator cluster survey, that 3 to 4 years. And this tool, for example, it's in this tool, disability is not classified by medical diagnosis, but rather by functional or walking or climbing steps, remembering or concentrating, self-care, and communicating. So each domain has 4 response categories, like no difficulty, some difficulty, a lot of difficulty, and cannot do at all. So, I mean, when you look into that detail, it's quite comprehensive, and when you look at it, you'll get a clear idea of how we measure different functional limitations of our respondents. And we try to gather national level data when we integrate this tool into our survey like MIX. And we also encourage our government partners to use this tool, as much as they can, but it also depends, as I mentioned, on the national definition of what disability really means in different contexts. I hope this really answered your question, but also after this meeting, we would be happy to share the link to this tool that we use at UNICEF. Thank you. And I'm happy to provide more details as required. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Silvera. I'm sure we've all learned something new. at least for me, I've learned about something called the H framework, ladder of life, and even the timeline mapping. I mean, how it's applied to the children. And whilst I was seated there, I was reflecting, can we also apply this approach in some of the other processes that we use? So I've learned something, and I'm sure we've all learned something. Before we go, there's one thing I would like to quickly highlight. We saw some videos that they showed us. How did you feel watching those videos and the message that was told within that short time? That is the power of data visualization and the power of visual storytelling. So as evaluators, as we go back, we want to take advantage of using the power of data visualization, especially visual storytelling, to bring out the results, the evidence, what we want to communicate to our audiences. I would mention a few points as announcements before we go for a tea break. When we were all walking in, we were provided with some coupons for a kind of should I say tea break? Yes, let me put it that way. Some of us have had breakfast, so maybe I can call it breakfast. Please, we have another program out there. I'm told there's quite a lot of people out there. We will be going upstairs for the tea break, but it will be difficult to be able to identify those who are actually part of our program and those who are outside. So please, we are pleading, if you can pull out the coupons that we're giving out. They are in twofold. One is for a tea break, and there's other for lunch. So if you can please reach out for the one for the tea break. If you do not have, no worries. If you step outside, please speak to the front desk and they will give you one. We have 30 minutes to go upstairs, have some networking. It is not just a tea break, it is also for networking. So please speak to someone, establish some connection, let's bond, let's network, and also bring out the power of networking. So see you all here in 30 minutes, and then we'll move on to the second workshop. Thank you. Yes, I'm being told all members of GMF Ghana Monitoring Evaluation Forum, if you are a member of the Ghana Monitoring Evaluation Forum, please, you may want to come upstairs here just for a brief photo, I'm told. Thank you. Both new and pioneers. Of time. For the sake of time, if you can come up, those mic is.
Hello. All members of GMF, please come up here for a photograph.
from our tea break. Feels like it should have been a lunch break, right? It's past 12, but at least please bear with us for now. We are getting ourselves ready. Are we all fired up for machine learning? Oh, it's like the energy in the room is small. Are we all fired up for big data and machine learning? The energy is still small. This energy, it is like a typical evaluation budget. It's too low. The energy I'm seeing is like an evaluation budget. It's too low. Please, for this afternoon, our energy is unlimited. Yes, we want to unleash our energies. For machine learning, yes, now we are ready. So this particular afternoon, personally, I am super prepared to consume everything that the experts are going to be introducing us to. Did you know that this is one of the sought after skill sets right now on the market? Well, in case you're not aware, the experts who are going to lead this session are actually training people across so many countries in Africa and charging thousands of dollars. But today, by courtesy of the Ghana Evaluation Week, Development Inside Hub, GMF, UNICEF, and all the partners who are supporting this event, we are all going to learn this for how many dollars? Please, let's show some appreciation. Let's show some appreciation to the organizers for bringing us this much needed skill set at this particular point in time. So the workshop 2 will be focusing on emerging technologies for M&E, AI, big data, and machine learning. Now, we have 2 experts who will be leading today's session for us. I will start with Mr. Stephen Atimbiri. I will just give you a brief bio about him so you appreciate the depth of his expertise with which he's here to share with us. So, Stephen actually is an AI subject matter expert for GIMPACT, G-I-M-PACT, which is a non-profit research, M&E, and capacity building organization. He's worked with the UK Aid, he's worked with World Education Incorporation, Rural Agriculture and Agri Development, and he's been supporting internal development and integration of A&E into existing workflows. That's quite interesting. Guess what? Stephen is currently leading, or he's a technical consulting lead for NCR Atleos. I think I would have to Google this, NCR Atleos, which is actually in charge of 32 African countries focusing on the banking sector. 32 African countries. Stephen, please, I beg you, remember your brother if they need a consultant. And he's also a research assistant for data intelligence and SWAM algorithm lab. I actually have no idea what SWAM algorithm is. And this is also a research group with interest in AI for development, health, and biometrics. That's quite an impressive profile. Our second expert is Kofi Mafo. Well, it will interest you to know that I actually have his bio right on my phone from ChatGPT. So that should tell you a lot. ChatGPT, you know Google. So he's already there, out there. He's a Ghanaian technology leader. He's an AI strategist. He's also an author and educator with over 3 decades of experience in the ICT digital innovation space. Well, currently, it will interest you to know that he's executive director of Bulk SMS Ghana Limited, implementation initiatives, not just in Ghana, but all across West Africa. He's recognized for his work in developing over 100 custom AI solutions. 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 100 customized AI solutions for championing the democratization of artificial intelligence across Africa. In fact, I asked ChatGPT to give me a summary, but even this summary is too long, which means the expertise is really very depth. He's an accomplished author and speaker. He's passionate about building Africa's digital capacity, and he's also passionate about empowering youth with AI skills. Currently, he's also promoting what he calls the Ubuntu AI philosophy. You'd like to hear more about that, the Ubuntu AI philosophy, which is integrating African values into modern AI development. Pause for a moment. This is not made in Africa evaluation. Integrating African values into AI development. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Isaac Kofi Mafo and Mr. Stephen Atimbiri. Please, let's show some more energy in our club. Mr. Mafo and Mr. Atimbiri, please, you have the floor.
Thanks for the introduction. Initially, I think the noise was low because when you mention machine learning and all that, you scare people. AI is a very interesting area. It's not scary, provided you want to learn. You mentioned Ubuntu. I'm trying to build, for most of the AI tools that we use, they are not focused on Africa. Initially, even if you ask an AI to generate an image for you, it will generate people who are not of African origin, unless you specify. So I'm trying to build an AI that speaks African languages. So currently I'm almost 80% done. I've gotten to a stage where I'm looking for language experts to test the languages. So currently about 70 African languages. Test the languages and correct the mistakes, because how many African languages do I speak? So I've done it, but I don't understand what comes up. So I need experts to actually test and then make the necessary corrections. Okay. This is the shortest AI training that I'm having. 2 6-hour sessions, and I thought those were short ones, but today's is very short. We're going to have a look. Normally when I start, I have a way of getting your interest, but today I can't do that. Because you are M&E experts, I would have created an M&E bot to assist us so that you can ask questions and it will answer and all that. I couldn't do that. I would have asked you to have a conversation with my personal assistant, and it would have communicated with you just like a human. Things that will let you see the world is changing. So we are using AI in ways that we are just playing with, joking with it. But the opportunities are endless. About 3 weeks ago, I was in town, and I received a call from UCC. They needed an invoice. But where I was, I had no access to any PC or anything. There was no way I could get them the invoice. But it was urgent. So I sent an email to an AI. We've gotten to that level, but you don't know. I sent an email to an AI. I said, go to my website, pick the logo. These are the figures. Go back, create the invoice for me, and then send it back to me. Within 5 minutes, I had the invoice, and then I sent it to them. It did the invoice with the logo. I didn't mention addresses and phone numbers, but it did all that. And then I put it to them. So if you are working and you don't see what is happening, you'll be left behind. We all need to upskill. Notebook LM is not just a tool for This is a short video about 6 minutes that we're going to watch. It's not just for M&Es. It's for lawyers, it's for everyone, but it helps in your work because it deals with data. And AI sometimes hallucinates. But Notebook LM plays around with your own data. So as experts, you deal with a lot of data. So once your data is uploaded, the notebook LM trains on your data. So all the questions that you ask is based on your data. So there's no hallucination here. Okay, let's first watch the video, and then once we are done watching the video, we are going to practically go in there. So today I wish everyone had a laptop in there.
So today I wish everyone had a laptop in. Go ahead and start playing. Sharing some basics. Hitting the control. Can jump. But I can hear you. There's noise playing, like. It's playing. Let's stop. Stop sharing. All right. Video.
Sites that are buried in all that data. So here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with the big challenge that M&E pros are up against. So if you're in monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, you know the feeling. Monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, you know the feeling, right? You are just buried under this mountain of reports, interview transcripts, and field notes. Well, today we're going to dig into a new AI tool that's pretty much designed to be your personal research assistant, helping you find those crucial insights that are buried in all that data. Monitoring and evaluation, or M&E, you know the feeling, right? You are just buried under this mountain of reports, interview transcripts, and field notes. Well, today we're going to dig into a new AI tool that's pretty much designed to be your personal research assistant, helping you find those crucial insights that are buried in all that data. So here's what we've got on tap, the big challenge that M&E pros are up against every day. Then, we'll introduce the AI assistant that's ready to help you out. Back by looking at what this could all mean for the future of the entire field. All right, let's dive right in. The absolute biggest hurdle in pretty much any M&E project is figuring out how to turn that mountain of data into a clear, actionable insight. It's a huge task. I mean, does this sound at all familiar? You've got dozens, maybe even hundreds of different documents. You've got the project proposals, you've got stakeholder feedback, all those interview transcripts, notes from the field. It is a classic case of just information overload. And trying to find the actual signal in all of that noise, that's the real challenge. And you know, at its heart, this is what M&E is all about. It's not just about collecting a bunch of data. It's the systematic analysis that tells you if a project is actually on track and if it's making a real difference. This is where all the heavy lifting happens. So when you're faced with that data mountain, what if you had a totally new kind of tool? Let's meet the AI assistant that's designed to help you climb it. We're talking about Notebook LM. Honestly, this is the perfect way to understand what it does. This isn't a search engine for the entire internet. It's a completely closed system AI that only, and I mean only, works with the sources you give it. You feed it your project documents, and boom, it becomes an expert on your data, ready to answer your questions. This comparison just lays it all out so clearly. The old way, you're manually reading, highlighting, trying to code every single piece of text. It's slow, it's painstaking work. The Notebook LM method, it lets you have a conversation with your documents. You can just ask for summaries, compare findings from different reports, and get answers in seconds. The difference is night and day. So, theory. Get practical. We're going to walk through it's when you upload your source identifying themes. Imagine asking it to compare focus group transcripts from two totally different regions. It might instantly tell you that participants in Region A kept mentioning a lack of training materials, while everyone in Region B was focused on transport issues. That's an insight that could take you days of manual coding to find. From there, you can synthesize these findings and use the summaries it generates to start drafting your report. Now, this all sounds pretty amazing, I know, but it's not a magic wand. Like any really powerful tool, it's absolutely crucial to understand both its incredible strengths and its very real limitations. So the upside is significant, for sure. You can massively speed up your initial analysis, especially when you're dealing with huge volumes of text. It's fantastic at synthesizing information from different documents, helping you connect dots you might have otherwise missed, and letting you build stronger, evidence-backed arguments for your reports. It's really all about getting to that first-level insight faster than ever before. Okay, but here's the caution. The output is only as good as the documents you give it. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. Summaries can sometimes oversimplify things or miss crucial context from the source text. And of course, you've got to be really mindful when you're working with sensitive information. But the bottom line is this. It is not a replacement for your critical thinking and your expert judgment. What's really interesting here is seeing how Notebook LM actually fits into the existing toolkit. It's not meant to replace traditional qualitative data analysis software, or QDAS. Those tools are built for deep, rigorous, manual coding. Notebook LM is for rapid synthesis and exploration. It's for getting a quick, high-level understanding of your data before you dive deeper, or for when you're in the middle of drafting your report. They can actually work together. This isn't just about a faster way to do the old tasks. This is about the potential to actually transform the entire field of evaluation. Reports often come at the very end of a project, kind of like looking back in the rearview mirror to see what happened. But with tools that allow for near-instant analysis, well, M&E can become a real-time source of strategic insight that helps guide a project as it's happening. That's a huge shift. And that has profound implications. It could totally change the role of the M&E professional, from being a historical analyst to a strategic advisor. It changes how we gather and process evidence, and ultimately, it could make evidence-based decision-making faster, more dynamic, and way more integrated into daily operations. And this all leads us to one final, really thought-provoking question. If an AI is the one summarizing and synthesizing our data for us, how might that change what we, as professionals, consider to be valid evidence? That's the question that could really shape the entire future of evaluation. Something to think about.
You know, the video you just watched was all developed by Notebook LM as well. So today I heard evidence-based something being mentioned. Notebook LM we will enter into the application and you understand. It has the ability to work on your own data, to generate reports, to create mind maps, to do a whole lot of things. At the same time, it has the ability to generate videos based on, how do you call it, your information. And then even create audios with AIs having a discussion on your data. So you can have two AIs having a discussion on the data you provided, analyzing, critiquing, and doing all sort of stuff. So it's a very powerful tool. You all have Google Gmails. You see, this tool was developed by Google. Google has developed a lot of AI tools, but because they don't make a lot of noise, people are not even aware what is available. And it's free. I'm using the Pro version, but I don't even see the difference between the Pro and the free in this particular case. So you all have access to it. Please check out notebook.google.com. I think for those using Android and stuff, you can even download it. But normally, you see all the features clearly on the PC. But if you want to download, you can download. If you have a PC here and you want to open it, notebook.lm.google.com. Forgive us, I think the problem is the internet. Sorry about that. Are we all on the same page? Are we on the same page? Okay. Since you all have Gmail accounts, once you click on Try Notebook LM, either it should take you straight in there or it will ask you to get in with your Google account. The internet is not helping us. It's open here, but over here it's still.